Hi Adam, here's the feedback for your Paper 2 mock that you did just before Christmas. Looking at question 1, you've got the full 4 marks for this question, so that's a good start. Moving on to question 2, where you're asked to write a summary of the differences between Eddie and Henry. I like the way that you've set it out up here, so you've shown that you've done some planning, and you have mentioned several differences. And the fact that Eddie lives at home with his parents and he can ask for help from his parents if he needs it, contrasted by Henry, who lives in a boarding school and can't get help from his parents. You've stated that Eddie is becoming lazy and compared to Henry. However, you've not given any examples of direct quotes from the text to back up your points. This does limit your grade to a level 1, which states offers paraphrase rather than inference, makes simple reference to textual details from one or both texts. That's the bit that you've not done. And statements show simple differences between texts. So you've done the first and the third bullet point, but not the middle bullet point, and that prevents it from going up any higher up the mark scheme. So you must make sure that you use quotes, direct quotes from each text to back up your points. You also need to try and look at what is suggested by the points that you've made. So you said here that Eddie is becoming lazy, but he still manages to get good marks for his homework, so it suggests that he doesn't really need to try very hard. It comes easily to him, whereas Henry has to work hard at it and he's still getting his spellings wrong. So to gain higher marks, you must make sure that you add quotes, and you must also try to put some inference in there. So reading between the lines, what is the writer telling you in between the lines, not what he's actually saying. Moving on to question 3. This answer is much better, Adam. You've given 5 or 6 different use of language where Henry's trying to influence his father. You've used quotes to back up your point, and you've given good explanations as to what he's trying to make his father feel or do. The one thing that's let it down a little bit and has limited your mark is the fact that you've not really used much subject terminology. You have used word and you've used phrase, but really we need more than that, because we've got here you could have said he uses the adjective unhappy, and then we've got repetition here because he uses the phrase my dear father several times, so we've got repetition, really trying to get his father on side. You've mentioned it again down here. Could use the verb to flog, and then here we've got exaggeration or hyperbole, where he's suggesting that they might not get to see each other if they don't see him soon. And there's also a simile where he talks about, he compares them to bears than Christians. So if you could have put some of those in, or used some of the subject terminology, you would have scored a higher mark. As it is, if we look at the mark scheme, level 2, the last bullet point says make some use of subject terminology, mainly appropriately. I think that's where we were limited to band 2 because of that. Whereas to get up to band 3, it makes clear and accurate use of subject terminology. So your comments and your quotes, really, I would put in band 3, but because you've not used enough subject terminology, it's limited, unfortunately, to band 6. Band 2, 6 marks. This gives you an overall score of 11 out of 40. However, you've not yet answered question 4 because you were absent for that lesson. So it's actually 11 out of 24, which, considering it's the first time you've attempted a mock paper 2, is a good score. We just need to make sure that your question 2, you're improving on that one. But we've got 5 months left before the exam. You just need to make sure you're attending every lesson. If you do have to miss any, try and catch up on the work before the next lesson, because the work tends to follow on. And you also need to try and make sure you're doing all your homework and handing them in for marking. But keep up the good work. I'm sure we'll get there. You're doing well.